Hello and welcome to the Two Bald Brothers and a Microphone podcast. This is your host, Danny Ryan. I'm here with my other co-host, Tommy Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Danny.
Awesome. And I'm very excited to talk to you about something that's technology related, right?
It's got a 3 in it, too.
It's got a 3 in it as well. But since you've been in a special place in what we would call SOW hell, you've at least had a part of your life that you've been enjoying very much outside of the gardening.
Right. Yeah. A lot of that going on.
Which is you have a new Model 3. So I just wanted to sit down with you. Hey, it does have the number 3 in it.
It does. And it's blue. I don't have a big, giant 3-wheel logo on it yet.
So when I thought you would get to this part of your life, that you were looking forward to having a 911, right? It was a Porsche 911.
That's right.
You wanted what's a convertible one, or
convertible,
did that matter?
red, candy apple red, 911 Carrera. But
and would you have ever guessed that you would get to this part of your life? Like, I'm making this up like you're reaching a half-life drama.
I am 50.
You're 50. Maybe this is.
It is a midlife crisis, isn't it?
Would you ever think you would be buying a car that you could let go of the steering wheel and it would just drive for you?
I never thought of that, 25 years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
About autonomous, driving, and it's definitely pretty far away from that. But it's neat to see the early stages of how a car can kind of take over, and what I think that will open up to in terms of opportunities for people that maybe want the freedom but can't drive. Think about your parents as they get older. Having options like that would be really cool to have.
So let's start with the backstory on this. So you had originally gotten a reservation to get one, and then you had found a way to get one that was even sooner than that.
Yeah,
Tell me about what happened
I'm trying to remember. It was June or July, maybe June 30th, 2016 is when I put the reservation in.
Wow.
For the Model 3, and
I just want to know how that conversation went with Linda. Okay, Linda, I'm going to put $1,000 down on a car that.
Well, this is kind of an interesting story. I saw the announcement, and the announcement was at 3:00 in the morning, basically 12 o'clock at night or midnight in California, and they made the announcement, and I was watching it because I was at the homeless shelter, and I was up. It was my shift. And so I was watching the announcement, and I decided, I already talked about it with Linda, and I just didn't pull the trigger. I said, I want to talk to her one last time because I don't want to put down $1,000 and decide not to do it and sacrifice that $1,000. Well, I found out later the $1,000 is always refundable. You can always get it back. But I talked in the morning. The next morning, I put in the reservation. So it's been over 2 years. Well, it's been exactly about 2 years since I put in that reservation.
Wow.
But I ended up, and the reservation that I put in is still not available to configure the car. My son, Alex, that you just had lunch with, he knows one of the structural engineers who went to Georgia Tech that is on like a team of 6 that did all the structural design for Model 3, and he had 2 reservations and only wanted to use one of them, and so he ended up giving me one of his reservations, and so I got it earlier than kind of expected.
And Alex said you gave your other old reservation to him? That was nice of him to do that.
I hear Danny Ryan wants it.
I heard
that hasn't been cleared by Clarence yet.
I heard Danny Ryan's married to Amy Ryan, and Amy's not so fond of this idea. But I'm holding off on the car thing for as long as I can. Honda makes a good car. I have no issues with this car.
I had 175,000.
Don't say that. Now you're going to make me have to go up to that.
Well, and Linda's 245 in her car. Yeah. Can you beat that?
No.
That car will probably go to 350.
Yeah.
We like running them to the ground. I mean, my other car was was fine. I could get another 75,000 out of it. It's just the timing. It's just exciting to kind of get it on, the brink of it becoming more of a mainstream car that's available. Something that starts at 35,000 versus 65,000 in their other vehicles.
So I'm thinking that I want to name this podcast the top X. Will say top 3 or 5 or 10 things that you love so far about your Model 3. So where would you start with? Part of this whole thing is the experience of getting this. Has it been a positive, like your whole? I know you signed up early for it, and then you.
It's interesting. They have, over 500,000 reservations.
Okay.
Which I think is $5 billion of people just putting money up front, which is incredible. The experience of knowing what you do next, it's not, I think, the best. I think it is one of those things that you go in and you check and they say, well, we're going to get to you, on this time frame. And that moved out once. And I suspect it probably will move out one more time for the reservation that I haven't used. And when I actually got to the point of getting the configuration done and getting it delivered, it got better. You had a better sense of what was going on. And they had a person that you could call and check in with, which was the same person every time. So you were kind of tied to kind of a customer service representative in that process from when you configured the car to when you had the car delivered.
So you're dealing with the same person.
Same person. And the configuration, they let you know it's open for configuration, and that's when you go in and pick the options. And right now it's very streamlined. The options that you have are really color and the type of wheel. And there's 2 different types of hubcaps, let's say, on the car. And then everything else is really software related. They have not given you choices for interior colors. You have to get the premium audio. They don't have the standard audio. And the rest of it's software, like the autopilot. You get all the sensors for autopilot. If you want it, you buy it up front. If you want it later, you just pay a little extra later. So that's interesting, where cars are going to a lot of software-related features that to help with production efficiencies, build the car the same way and just enable or disable at a software level. And that way you can upsell later if you want to. And
you got blue, 3-wheel blue.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. With that, so do you have like 5 different colors you could choose from, and you had to pay extra to get something that was non-black, right?
Yeah, so I think black.
I'm so going to get a black car. It's never.
But I got the black.
It's never going to be $35,000. I'm pretty convinced.
There is, yes.
I'm pretty convinced.
There is the 35,000 is not out there yet. That is the standard range battery with the standard hubcaps and black. And then no other features, upgraded features, let's say. But, they're all kind of basic model. Everything is physically there. You just have to decide, do I want autopilot or do I want cruise control? Things like that you have to add on.
Did you get the regular hubcaps?
No, I got the Sport.
You got the Sport hubcaps. Yeah.
If I'm going to go through a midlife crisis, I got to get the Sport.
I love it. And then, so those were the 2 things then.
Yeah, that was the only 2 kind of physical hard things that you had to decide and pick on.
But they still must do configure to order. I mean,
it is a configure to order. So I mean, that color makes a big difference because they've got to go and retool the line to go to the next color. So people, you go to the forums and you're sitting there. Okay, I've configured. When am I going to get the car? And people are talking about, I've got this color and I've got this feature. And
do they batch them up, I guess?
They batch it up by color, yeah.
Yeah.
As far from what I've read, and I haven't proved it. I haven't talked to Elon about it, but that's what I read on the forums.
Yeah, by the way, when I met with Alex at lunch today, I made sure that his friend wasn't the one that was the leak. Did you hear the memo that went out this week? That
No.
They had someone who was logging in as different people and changing code and then leaking, basically someone who was disgruntled about a raise or a title raise or whatever. And so they were leaking things out to the press and sabotaging the company.
Yeah, I think when you're someone like an Elon Musk that's kind of pushing the envelope, I was talking to the engineer, Alex's friend, and he says, I don't know how long I can be there. Either I'm going to get fired or I'm just going to get tired of the environment. It's very exhausting. So definitely not a lifestyle company like 3Volt. It's more of a grind them up. And if you want to be working on the latest thing, then you just pay the price to be in that environment.
So you got the car how long ago?
I had PTO and I got it actually the day before I went on PTO. So it was sitting in the garage for a week. And
you didn't let me know this? You're like, I am not going to say a damn thing today.
If I'm the one who's going to break this thing first, I got to put on the first scratch.
I could have done the first scratch for you.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of service I provide. Yeah,
and you've got, well, you know, what I like the most and what actually is taking a while to get used to is having no keys. So you pair your phone, and your phone is your entry into the car.
Okay.
And it's the proximity that locks it for you and turns it off. So when you get in the car, you definitely have to tell it, I want to go in reverse or drive. By the stock shift, you go up or down for that. And then when you park, you push in. After you park, there's nothing else you do. You just exit the car. And when you stop, the music's still playing and it's still got air conditioning on. But when you leave the car and close it and it sees the proximity that you've left, it actually turns all those systems down. And then when you get back into the car, it's got some nice features where it brings the seat back and the wheel forward. And then when you sit down, it starts ramping up the radio back to the same volume that you had when you left the car. And when you exit the car, it actually brings the volume down. So when you open the car, it's not blasting.
Just a little pro tip for you. If you're going to go to the bathroom, you probably should bring your phone with you. Because if you leave it out on your desk, you might come back.
Good idea.
It's just a pro tip. Because my phone won't open my car.
Well, you know, one of the things that's interesting, I've been in used cars since we got married. When we first, it's interesting, the car that we got.
Oh, you blame this all on Linda? No, I'm just kidding.
She gets all the new cars. Now it's my turn. No, the first car we got was kind of in a similar vein. It was a Saturn, where it was, you know, a different buying experience than the standard buying experience.
I remember that. Yeah.
And we had that, and then we had kids, and so ended up getting a used Bronco or something like that.
And you had a Maxima for a while, the Nissan Maxima for a while that you got from CarMax.
Yeah, and all my cars, I've bought them already with like 60,000 or more miles. So I've always been used to very old tech.
Yeah.
And you know, I'd never had a car that's had keyless entry, like a key fob. Just never had all these automatic features, not a rear view, you know, mirror, back out camera.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. It's fun to have it. It's kind of neat to have those, and it's going to be hard to drive cars without it, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. So tell me more about, well, I guess you showed it off to me earlier this week, and I love how if you're getting into the back seat, it makes you feel like an idiot because you don't know what to do to the door. So you just stand there for a while, and then you start pressing on things, and then it opens. I was the first one to figure it out.
You are, yeah.
But still,
it's got some unconventional kind of features that, and I don't know, maybe other cars have it too. Maybe it's not unique to Tesla, but when you open up the car, they have an emergency. That is a physical, mechanical opening of the door.
Okay.
But everything they try to do is through software enabled, so electronic.
Uh-huh.
And so they have, for opening the door, they bring down the window and then pop the door. So I think they're trying to take the seal off so it's easy for it to open up. And if you do it mechanically, it warns you, don't do that because you might end up long-term damaging the door if you always use the mechanical piece.
Mm-hmm.
But that's interesting. And then getting in, it's not like the Model S and X where the handles come out as you approach the car. There's a mechanical kind of, you push in on the handle for it to flip out so you can open up the car.
And you showed me, I mean, it's got one screen.
Yes, no dashboard.
No dashboard. It's all controlled from one screen.
Yeah. And I think it's 15-inch, just one single screen. And they put all the driver type functions, like what is your speedometer and your windshield wipers, all that is on the left hand, kind of the left third of the screen. And they've got a really nice big navigation panel that there's cards that kind of slide up to layer on top of it as you're doing things like music or other features.
Does it remind you of like a iOS or Android? Are there parts of it that are similar to it, or is this a whole new different type of experience? Or
it is different. It's not like CarPlay. I never use Android Auto, so I don't know how to compare it to that. But it's not like CarPlay where it's kind of app button related. Yeah. You've got some physical buttons. I say physical because it has a kind of a painted symbol, so that touch area will actually be a shortcut to a function like air condition, fan speed, and stuff like that.
So it's got an icon for a physical thing, but it's not a physical button.
It's not. It's a touch screen.
It's a touch screen.
You're just touching an area of the touch screen that's kind of dedicated to have that.
How do you like that? Is there times in which you want to have like a knob, or is it you're adjusting to it right now?
The thing I think I still adjust to, and this is only the first week that I'm driving, but the thing that I'm adjusting to is on that collar to go up or down to drive. I've always had the manual transmission where in the center console you would actually move it to drive and move it to reverse. And that is, when I first got in the car, that was awkward. And then now I'm getting used to it. But, you think about a quick way to go back and forth and reverse and drive if you're trying to kind of turn around or something like that. It's not as intuitive, but it's becoming intuitive now.
The navigation on it, is it better than with like a Google Maps or a Waze, or what's been, or any?
I like it. I don't say I wish I had Google Maps. I mean, it feels more like Google Maps.
Do you dial in a destination and then it gives you driving directions for it?
It does. Okay. And the neat thing about it is it tells you what your battery is going to be at the destination and what your battery would be on a round trip. So you don't, quote, strand yourself where you go somewhere and you don't have enough charge to get back.
Okay.
And also, if you do a longer trip, it will show you supercharging stations along the route and tell you how much time you should stay at each of those charging stations to arrive with enough battery to kind of get around town.
Now, Alex said you're going up to the wedding.
We're going to a wedding in Ohio, so we're going to have our first road trip in it and be able to test some of the enhanced autopilot features.
And the charging stations, do you pay for that, or is that something
you do? And I calculated out to kind of get a full tank of gas of that's 310 miles is so to put 250 or so in it. I calculated it's like $6 to $7, so it's definitely a lot cheapper than if
total
you were to get
$6 to $7 for 350 miles.
Yeah, for say 300 miles. Charge.
Okay.
I wouldn't quote me on that, but it's somewhere in that ballpark. It's less than $10.
Okay. Don't worry, nobody's going to. We're not the car guys. Hey guys, if you're coming here for real numbers, go somewhere else. We're a bunch of tech geeks talking about a car, and it's cool. So it maps it out for you so that you know where to stop and how long to stop there.
Yeah, and then it tells you where you're going to be at what time for those supercharging stations.
Do you have to reserve them, or
no?
Okay.
I think right now, in general, there's availability when you go. I don't think that's going to be the case a year from now, 2 years from now. They're just starting to get populated, and as soon as they can ramp up their production to 5,000 or more, we'll start seeing a lot more on the road.
And then you have a charging station at home that you plug in.
Yes.
And you said it only takes like an hour or so to get a full charge?
Yeah, so
whatever the charge is.
Yeah, so I've got it's on a 40 amp circuit, and I drive maybe, let's say 50 miles in a day, roughly, probably a little bit less if I'm not going anywhere else. And that has been an hour to charge it. And I talked to our local power company, and they can get you set up on being on a 2-tier rate system that, from a certain time to a certain time in the day, you're paying a certain amount per kilowatt hour, and then at night you pay lower. And so I set it on a delay to start charging at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Is that 220 or 221 or
whatever it takes?
You want a beer? It's 6 o'clock in the morning. Scotch. Sorry, watch Mr. Mom. Sorry. So then, trying to think of what else. I was impressed with the fact that you can put stuff in the front of the car and the back of the car.
Yeah, you got a frunk and a trunk. Get in the frunk. And this is what the Tesla engineer that Alex knows said, that frunk is designed to fit the passenger a carry-on bag for airline travel. So if your bag fits in that trunk, you can take it in on a plane. So
and the trunk itself is big enough for like 3 or 4 dead bodies.
Yeah. You put down the seats, you can get another 2.
So a lot of this is software related, right? So you actually got a software update the other day.
I did, yeah.
And you said you looked at release notes. You were probably just like, oh, this is the best thing ever.
It is.
You had to go inside and put your clothes back on. Linda, I got a software update. I got release notes on my car. She's like, what is your problem? Well, it's exciting though. Getting new software is one of the reasons why we're in this business.
I'm not used to software when it relates to cars. I mean, I thought like CarPlay was neat when I rented a car that had that. It added to the experience for sure.
Yeah. Trying to think what other things surprised you, or what do you I know when we were driving around the other day, the acceleration was pretty good.
Yeah, it's got a great pickup. I mean, and this is not one of the faster, probably the slowest Tesla that's out there today. But I think it's 5.2 going from 0 to 60. But it just has a good, nice response. With being an electric motor, you don't get any of that lag from the time that you punch it to it goes.
And then when we were driving around, it picked up that we had undone the seatbelt. One of us was plugged into I think it was Jeff. It's plugged in the wrong seatbelt. But that's software. I mean, right? At least that's a safety problem. So if you have kids back there, it's not just us. So who cares? But it's amazing.
Yeah, what I thought was neat, just when I was configuring the car, there was news about the braking distance on the Tesla.
The Consumer Report
stuff. And then, I don't know if it was a week or 2 weeks, the update went out, and it brought it back to, what they expected it to be for a sedan, its size. That it was well within the normal range.
What do they call it? Software? It's like greenfield. Like everybody's running the latest version of everything. Is that the term? I should know, but I forget.
Evergreen.
Evergreen.
That's it. I mean, I think of that when Office 365. I guess you could see that. The same with Tesla. I don't think they're letting people lag on versions.
You
I think
can't control whether you're getting the update or not.
You can control when you install it.
Okay.
But I don't know if they force you after a period of time.
Because you might want to not uninstall the update as you're going 85 miles down 400.
Yeah. You want to be parked.
Yeah, I was mentioning to Alex the stuff about the guy who was sabotaging the company. I'm like, well, that makes you worry. Like, so you can send, these are updates. That's the
with
one thing
power
that
is danger. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing that the QA of this stuff as it goes out.
What made me a little bit nervous is when I got in the car, I couldn't open up the glove compartment. And they said it was a software glitch, but they had to put a new piece of hardware in there to be compatible with the software.
Well, that makes you feel real good.
Can't wait to find that next bug.
Oh, and then yesterday you were showing Austin, and was it yesterday? Austin and Alex were driving around, and you were showing off now the autopilot is it's you can just let go of the wheel.
Yeah, it comes in. There's two stages of autopilot, and one is basically cruise control, adaptive cruise control, where you can set the distance you want to be with the car in front of you.
Which Honda has. There's other companies that have that.
Linda's, her car is a 2005. It has that feature.
Oh, it does. Okay.
So it's probably cutting edge at the time, but that's kind of a standard feature. And then and in terms of autopilot stuff, I don't think Tesla's necessarily the leader in that. But the neat thing about it is you see new features, I think, sooner as they're improving it. But the enhanced autopilot, it will keep you within the lane and take over driving. And you can do this at slower speeds and back roads or on the highway. And they were having an interesting experience doing it in the back windy roads around the house. It can freak you out, when you do it for the first time. But in that release that I got, the new release ended up showing cars on the road, so it shows you positionally where you are in traffic with other cars.
So where it's sensing the other cars, it's showing you on the feedback as on the screen.
On the screen, yeah.
Nice.
Also with the enhanced autopilot, you can change lanes. So you put on your blinker, and if you're in enhanced autopilot, it will move you over when you have space to move over.
And you pay extra for when the laws are through to do a full autopilot experience.
I think that's going to be a paid upgrade, and I don't know what that dollar figure is. I think I don't know if it will come to the people that purchased enhanced autopilot, or that will be an additional charge. Because they have two stages of autopilot, just I think a standard autopilot and an enhanced.
Have you done the summon thing? You told me about that, where it can drive.
I haven't done it. I don't think it's available yet on the Model 3. I think they're probably trying to get enough telemetry, I guess, on the cameras and calibration, and before they turn on that feature, because it's moving it without you in it. So from what the engineer said that I talked to, that's coming, but they're not sure when they're going to release that. And it's all these software things. I was looking at the audio on it for music, and they use Slacker. I said, I wish it was Spotify. I've got all my playlists there. I'd rather not create another account and manage another account. And John was in the car with me today, and he looked it up. And actually, Model 3 and Model X have an option to change to Spotify. So I would think that would be coming in the future.
Nice. Because
it's just a software thing that they're probably just testing it out in that group of cars and then rolling it out in the Model 3 later.
At lunch with Alex thinks that the Model 3 will be like the iPhone, where everybody has in the future. You see a lot of them around, and it's.
I saw one at lunch today. I think. Well, that's a lot of. I'm not a car buff, so I don't know how many cars go out in a year for a particular model, but 500,000 is quite a lot, for a car that no one's driven until recently.
Yeah,
I think just maybe a week or two back they started putting them in the showrooms, but before everybody's doing it kind of on faith. And it's neat to see, someone breaking through kind of the standard paradigms with, building cars. And it's coming at a price. I think, that company is really struggling and grappling with things and, on the edge of, bankruptcy and all those good things. But it's great to have someone pushing through, because it makes it better for all of us.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd see the amount of movement you've seen in electric cars outside of Tesla.
Yeah.
If Tesla wasn't the one kind of pushing the envelope.
And you want people to move over from, to having a gasoline station on every corner to a charging station.
Yeah, and you think the infrastructure for that would be easier, the safety on that would be, you wouldn't have to worry about cleaning up a gas station or a charging station when they move to another location, because now it becomes a hazmat scene for any time a gas station is, vacated a location.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think infrastructure-wise that would be a lot easier to get it set up, and you don't have to have gas trucks dumping gas, on there. You think overall it would be a lot more efficient and cost-effective to get into the market. I think that's going to be the challenge and the pain. At one point, you would think it's going to tip, and then it's going to be hard to find gas, and you don't want to have. You can't come back home and refuel and gas if there aren't gas stations.
Right.
It becomes a bigger challenge, I think, when that tips.
What else? Any other surprises that you ran into when you first? Anything?
No, I think what's kind of neat is the regenerative braking.
Oh yeah.
So it's like driving a golf cart as you let go on the accelerator.
Really souped up golf cart.
Yeah.
So you let go of the gas.
You let go of the gas, and it starts braking, and it brakes pretty significantly. And you can almost get away with never touching the brake until you come to a stop sign or a stoplight, where it will drift. You have to put on the brake to completely stop the car. But for normal traffic, you're just keeping your foot on the accelerator and just backing off on it to brake it.
Did you get any of the tax benefits out of this?
I'm looking at the details. I think I'm still qualifying for the federal rebate, which they hit, I think, I want to say 365,000 electric cars.
Okay.
And then that will go away.
That's like $10,000, something like that?
It's 9,500. Yeah, it's
Wow.
significant. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a nice break. So, but it's funny. It's almost funny money, for an LLC.
Well, can I borrow $9,500? It's not funny to me.
It's not money, and it's a tax break.
Yeah.
But when you're, the whole LLC stuff makes that.
And tell me more about this LLC.
That becomes funny money.
Anything else? You've got an iPhone and your Apple Watch. Is there any interaction between your mobile phone? Are you just plugging it in and that's it?
So the phone, it connects to Bluetooth, and you can, basically do. What I found was kind of neat is when you're talking on the phone, you go into the car. When you close the door, it actually switches over to the car. And I've talked to people, and they haven't noticed that change. And so the audio is pretty good. So it's nice that it brings the call control into the car, which is, probably most cars have Bluetooth. I've never had a car with Bluetooth before. So all these new things that's not really a cool feature. That's what all cars do. But I've enjoyed that. That's kind of a nice switch over.
Yeah, that was the only thing that with July 1st hands-free stuff, Amy's like, well, maybe you should have a car with Bluetooth and some of those things. But I before I had a pretty nice Bluetooth, not Bluetooth, but it had Bluetooth, and you can hook up through the USB cable, or firewire cable, whatever. You could hook that up to your phone, and then it brings the audio through without having to tune it in, without having to connect to it through Bluetooth. And they would broadcast that onto your stereo channel. So I'll show it to you. It's a nice. I've found it's a lot nicer than the typical Bluetooth adapter for a car. There's nobody who deserves this car more than you do. You've been having a lot of used cars that you've put up with, or you're very frugal, and I appreciate that. And I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
I think it's
the Catholic guilt kind of dampers some of that excitement, but
you don't have to feel guilty for it. So you've gotten the kids through college, right?
Yes.
So kids are, you've taken care of that. Madeline's married off, so that's been taken care of. And but yeah, it's a beautiful car, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening. If you've gotten all the way to this point, that's amazing. Well, maybe we should talk more about cars on here. But I hope you enjoyed this.
Cars in collaboration.
Cars in collaboration. We tried to bring the technology piece into this and talking about it, since it really is a technology-driven car. And did they have anything in the car that had to do with Microsoft Teams, or at any point in time were you interacting with Office 365? Or
Not yet. I'll have to talk to Elon about that.
Okay. Yeah, we have to write a little
we
Microsoft
can write
Teams
a connector.
app. Yes, connector. There you go. Well, thank you. Well, I'm going to stop it at that. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye.